Hello there, so let's create this effect together. Just going to compile some shaders, this effect that you see right here. So I don't know how well you can see it, but there are two effects together that's creating this illusion of dust or sand effect going into the air. Okay, let's get started. First of all, we have to create a blueprint with it, for the whole effect, for the location of the effect, because when we spawn this system, the Niagara system, we will need a location. So how we can get the location? Well, there are two ways to do it. The easiest way to do it, of course, is to get actor location, this one right here. So it will be like, let's go ahead and go through all two ways to do it. So we have movement input right here. This is created by default in the third person character. So the first way to do it is to, for example, create a custom event and let's call it effect. I don't know, I just want to call it something. And then in here we just call the effect, and then you can just maybe you just come here and hit delay, and maybe whenever you move you just want to spawn the effect every 0.4 seconds, and then you can just go ahead and spawn system at location. So spawn system at location, or attached, it could be attached to the component as well, to the mesh component, for example. So you can just attach it to the mesh component. I wouldn't do that right now. So the location would be get actor location, and the system is gonna be the system that we'll create later on in this video, and that's gonna be it. This is like the easiest way to do it, but the better way to do it is going to be using the animation blueprint. So what we can do right now is go to the, let's find the animation blueprint, go to the running animation or whatever animation that you want to use. For example, right now I want to go, my running animation is called fast run anim. I've downloaded it from Mixamo, and whenever the foot right here touches the ground, we can have a notify. So here, right click, add notify, new notify, and then call it something, and then hit enter, and then you'll have it. Right now I've called it footprint R for the right foot and footprint L for the left foot. And when you want to go into other animations, for example, maybe this one, oh, maybe, yeah, when you want to have it here, you can, so this is a right foot, right click, add notifies, skeleton notifies, search for footprint R, and there you have it. You'll have the footprint R in here, and then you'll go into the animation blueprint. You can find it from the mesh, and the anim class is going to be ABP underline many underline C. In the event graph, you will have the anim notifies that you've just created. You can just type their name, footprint L, no, not this one, I always make it wrong, footprint, yeah, this one, L and right, footprint L, footprint right, the ones that you just created. I've called the right one footprint R and the left one footprint L. And then you have to create an event in the third person character or in the character that you're using. So third person, you have to cast to the third person character this one, and then get player character, your character, this one, that goes into the object. And this is just a custom event that we've created. So custom event, call it like JJJJ. If you compile it, in here you'll have JJJJ, this one. So whatever you call it, make sure you just get a copy from it or get a reference from it, and then you have to go into reference. So it's like whenever the notify gets triggered, it will cast to the character, and it will run the code, the piece of code that you've created right here. Okay, so after that we have to line trace. So what is it hitting? Is it a ground? What is it? So we can just do a line trace by channel, this one right here, and we're gonna do one for the right foot, and we're gonna do one for the L foot. So there are two footprint L and footprint right notifies that we've created inside the animation. So one is for right and one is probably for the left whenever it hits the ground. And for the start location of the trace, it's gonna use the foot left socket name. So you can just drag in the mesh and then get socket location. This is like the easiest way to do it. And how we can find the socket name that we're gonna use: go into the skeletal mesh, type in foot probably, and it's called foot L. Right click, copy selected bone names, and come in here, and in here Control V, and then you have it. It will start from add 100 units above the ground. This will be the start point, and the end point is gonna be 100 units subtract 100 unit under the ground. Okay, not this one. The trace channel is gonna be visibility, of course, because we wanted to trace everything, all the grounds, all the materials that we have underneath us. And trace complex should be checked, and that's it. Okay, so after that we can just spawn system at location. These are some other things I'm spawning. You can go ahead and check other videos about all of these, but right now we're just talking about this system right here. So you can just spawn system at location, this one right here, but we have to come out of out hit, break hit results, expand, and since we have it right now, we're just interested in the location. So you have the spawn system at location, you can use the location, and it goes in here. Just the bonus points: get surface type. You can switch it on a physical surface as well. So if it's a sand, it will spawn this system. If it's a stone, it will spawn another emitter or particle effect that you've created. Or if it's a wood, it will probably spawn nothing, or it will just spawn a sound on it. It's completely based on whatever you want, but if you wanna use the get surface type, make sure that you go into the project settings, physics, come down here in this physical surface, and then you have to make sure that you've set all the surfaces that you want in here. And after that you have to go ahead into your material folder, materials, right click, physics, physical material. You have to create some physical material. I have some physical material created before, so I just created. So if you go ahead in the physics, physical material, you have to check this one, physical material, and then select it, and then name it something. Come here, make sure that the surface type is, this one is named PM underline stone, physical material underline stone. The surface type's gonna be stone. Make sure you set this one right, and probably if you want to change the friction, static friction, blah blah, you can do so. It will change the character movement though. And after that you will go to the probably in the material instance or in the material itself, and then you have a physics material in here. You can just change it to the one you've just created. So if this material is sand, you can just use the PM underline sand that you've created. Okay, anyway, so this is not what we're gonna do right now. We'll just spawn the system at location, and we are going to create one system for the sake of this tutorial. Okay, let's go ahead and create that. The first thing you need is going to be a material. Right click in your materials folder, right click, and type in. I've already, as usual, created it. For me, it's called M underline food dust. So this effect includes two emitters, two separated emitters. One is gonna be for the smoke effect, and one is gonna be for the sand particles that are just coming out of the ground. And this is based on the video that pops up in here. So the texture is there, texture is in the description. You can just go ahead and download it out. So this is the texture that you'll download. It's gonna be an 8K texture, which is a lot. So go ahead, open up the texture, make sure the maximum texture size is 2048 if you're working on PC. If you're working on mobile or something, 512 or 1024 is the way to go. Okay, come in here, particle sub UV, and make sure that the texture you've downloaded is selected in here. So you can just go ahead and I guess it was named 2. And hold M for the multiply, come in here, and then this one goes into the emissive color. By the way, this is going to have to be a translucent material and an unlit material. We used the shading model as unlit because we want more performance, and we want to be using this this effect all over the world, so we really need that. And particle color, this one. The color itself is going to be multiplied by the color of the texture, which in the end this is the color that the texture will get, the effect will get. This one's going to the emissive color. If the emissive is too much, you can just go ahead and hold M, and maybe 0.5 will do the job for you, but not for me. For me, it's just good like this. And the depth fade is something that you should be using. So first of all, the texture contains alpha channels. We need that alpha channels to make the effect fade in and fade out, and probably we don't want it to be as obvious in this screen. Just remember, don't overdo things. If you're working on effects, if you're working on textures, models, anything, don't overdo things. A nice scene comes out from a lot of things combined, and not a lot of little touches here and there. So don't overdo it. This one goes into, again, hold M and left click. This one goes, the alpha goes into alpha, and then depth fade. Just the default value is going to be fine. This one goes into the opacity, and that's it. Now that we have the material, let's go into the FX folder. By the way, if you don't want to use the texture I just gave you, and the links in the description, of course, you can go ahead and create a Niagara system, fluid system for yourself, and bake a texture that you think is gonna be more beautiful. So that's completely up to you. But for the sake of this tutorial and because I want things to be easier for you, I just baked a texture for myself, and I just attached it in the description of the video. But you can just go ahead and bake it, and if you don't know how to do it, there will be a pop-up and a link in the description that will help you out in that process. Okay, so right click, Niagara system. It will be from a selected emitter, and the first emitter that we're going to be using is going to be a single looping particle, this one, and then add it and then hit finish. I named it ns underline food dust, and this one right here will be what you'll have. Okay, the properties, it will be a CPU sim. You can just go ahead and create a GPU compute sim and then make sure that you set fixed bounds afterwards, but I didn't want it to be GPU since it's not that complicated. Spawn's fine. Okay, so in the emitter state, I mean, all of them are in the emitter update, by the way. Loop behavior is going to be once. The default value is infinite. We don't want that. We want once. Loop duration mode's fixed. Loop duration is 3 seconds. And for me, spawn count in the spawn burst instantaneous. Yeah. If you don't have it, make sure you go ahead and add a spawn burst instantaneous. Oh, that's a hard name. This one right here. Spawn count is 5 for me. Spawn probability is 0.75. You can not use it, it's up to you. I just prefer to have some randomness in all of my effects. Initialize particle. Okay, so the only thing I've changed is uniform sprite size. Min is 20 and the max is 200, and sprite size mode is random uniform. You can do a non-uniform as well. It's just gonna make things harder. Don't want things to be hard. I added a shape location. Just go ahead and add a shape location in the particle spawn area. The shape's gonna be a sphere radius 50, and that's it. I added a velocity, this one right here. So add velocity. Come in here in the velocity modes should be linear for me. This is what I prefer right now. And do a random range vector. If you want the effect to kind of simulate some wind in the screen, you shouldn't be doing like -50 and 50. 0 and 50 will have a direction to somewhere, so that's what I'd recommend you do it. So 0, 50, 0, 50, 0, 50 for all axes. And then I added a color because I want to change the color in it. And remember I told you we need the color in the particle color to be multiplied by this? Well, this is the color that we're going to use, and this is the color I'm using. This is the code. You can use them all. Okay, so I am scaling the sprite size as well. So scale sprite size. Sorry, I just called it sprite. It's sprite size, and I want it to be a uniform curve. And you can just right click on the curve and add key, hit this one to add a new key, and the first key is 0, 0, and then the second key is gonna be 0.2 and 1. And you can right click on both of them and make sure they're user or auto. We don't want them to be completely linear, or make sure you hit one of these things because we want them to be like a real curve. Okay. This is something that's added by default. So sub UV animation is so important. Sub UV animation, because we are using a texture that contains 64 animations, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and 8 on the other side, we have to be using the sub UV animation in this side. It's gonna be linear and 0 to 63 because it's 8 by 8, and the sprite renderer should be sprite renderer, and that's it. And the scale color, because we want to have it fade in and fade out, so we need to have a scale color in the the autosave. Man, I hate this function in UE. Okay, particle updates, scale color, this one right here. And then you can again add key and add different keys and make sure that they're all right click, they're either user or auto. Okay, the first one's definitely 0 0, the second one 0.2 and 0.15, and the last one is 1 and 0. And sprite renderer. Okay, this is where you should be setting up the material. This is the material we've created. Just hit this one to make sure you find it in the content browser, and then the material should be going this way. And make sure the face emote is face camera, because we don't want to, when we rotate around the effect, we don't want the trick to be visible to the character, to the player, to whoever. Yeah, sub UV in here, sub UV blending enabled should be checked, and sub image size is 8 by 8. And as you remember, I just counted it in the screen. It's 8 by 8, which is 64 frames in total. Okay, this is the first effect we've created. The second one should be right click, add emitter, and a fountain right here. Just make sure you create a fountain. I had created one, so I don't really need to do it again. Again, it's CPU sim. You can again go ahead and do a GPU, doesn't matter. And the emitter state's gonna be once again, fixed, and loop duration is gonna be 0.2. Spawn rate is 500, probability is 0.75, initialized particle mass, oh no, not this one. The sprite size min is 1, sprite size max is 2. That's it. Oh, by the way, if you don't want to change the color in here, you can just go ahead in the color section in the sprite, which it doesn't have, which is weird. Yeah, the point attributes, it probably doesn't have the point attributes. Yeah, okay. So it's based on sprite, this is based on the point. Okay, so if you want to change the color instead of this node, you can do it here. Okay, shape location, again, as I told you in the particle spawns shape location, again, it's a sphere 8, and a velocity of linear minus 200. Again, we probably don't want this one to be affected too much by the wind. Maybe you can go ahead and do a 100, minus 100, and a 200, but I just found out that this probably does the best, so I don't really care. And color, again, if you don't want to add a node for it, you can change it in here. But bear in mind that this node's lower than this node, so it's like this node runs first, this node runs second, then this node, and then this node. So if you are changing the color in here and then changing the color in this node, this is the result, not this one. And then we've added a gravity force, which in fountain it's already there. If you want to, you can change the gravity. I didn't change it, and the drag force was here. Scale color, again, scale color this one, because we want to fade them out if they are ever being faded out. Yeah, no, they aren't. It's because of their material. So you can just skip this one, but if you want to change the material later on, and if you want to really fade them out, these are the numbers 1 and 0. Okay, and I added a curl noise force, so you can just go ahead and type in curl noise force, and 1050 should be, I mean, it's actually the default value, so it doesn't matter. Sprite renderer, I didn't change the default material for it. Yeah, it should work. So this scale color thing works just fine. I'll probably have the lifetime less than what I should have. I actually didn't talk about life cycle. Yeah, loop duration is so low. Lifetime mean in this fountain thing is 0.75 and max is 1.25. And in this one, lifetime doesn't I didn't really set anything up for it. And this is again facing the camera, and that's it. The only thing that you have to go and set right now is make sure you find it in the content browser, and then you go ahead in the spawn system at location that you've created and make sure this is set up. Then if you go into the game, you'll have the effect that you want. It might not be too obvious. You can go ahead and change the scale color a little bit. I didn't really want to do that because I didn't want to. You know what? Let's actually do that. So in the scale color, let's make it something like no, not this one. Let's make it something like 0.35 and see how that looks. Or maybe you can spawn more. Spawn probably 10 of them to see how it looks. Yeah, it's a little bit better. A little bit better. It's not bad. Okay. Well, and hit save, and this is it. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please hit that like button. Have a great day. Bye.